It's a casual afternoon at the mall. An armed citizen suddenly finds himself in the middle of a gunfight. He has no place to go and no place to hide. He makes a dangerous decision and draws his weapon. Stop the Threat starts now. Hello and welcome to Stop the Threat. My name is James Towle. Our guest for this week's episode, Rob Pincus, managing editor of the Personal Defense Network, and he's going to tell us about his latest book, Counter Ambush Training. Kelly Muir. She has been recently selected by Black Belt Magazine as Woman of the Year. Congratulations to you. And Marc MacYoung. Marc, I know that you have 24 books and videos on self-defense, and you're a very busy guy, and working on 3 more, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, let me start with Rob, because I'm kind of anxious to hear about the new book.
New book is exciting. It's, in the past, the books have really dealt directly with firearms training, right? And now what we're looking at is more how do you approach training in general? You know, what are the most likely circumstances and what are the most imperative things to train for? And we've always felt that the worst case scenario is the one that you're not prepared for. You know, everybody talks about awareness and alertness and perception and, conditions and sitting with your back to the wall. But the fact is, modern world, we all get distracted. That's when we're at our most vulnerable, and that's how we need to train.
So you're not a follower of yellow, white.
I think what we have to realize is that all those conditions of awareness are relative, right? Right now, I am in 100% conditioned, focused on you. I'm whatever color you want to ascribe to that. But to Marc, I'm really not paying any attention whatsoever, so I'm in the lowest level of awareness and alertness relative to him. Obviously, the bad guy, the worst case scenario bad guy, is the one sneaking up behind me, and that's where the counter ambush philosophy comes in. So it's not a bad idea to pay attention, but we can't count on always paying attention to the right thing.
Yeah, I don't have that book yet, but I am going to get it because that's pretty interesting stuff.
We'll make sure that happens.
Okay, good. Now, Kelly, Woman of the Year.
It was a huge honor.
Hey, that's a big deal.
I was very surprised, and surprised only because I don't pay attention to the awards. I mean, I live my life, I work in the industry, I teach my students, and it was just a very special moment when I found out that somebody had nominated me and that they had chosen me for that honor. It was huge.
Have there been other women nominated?
Oh, there are so many talented women in the martial art world, and I think that's why it meant so much, because I work with these women, I admire their work, and for Black Belt Magazine to acknowledge me as a pioneer or a leader among this very talented pool of people, that's what meant so much. I'm in awe of many women that I work with, so it was a special surprise.
Well, congratulations again to you.
Thank you.
Marc, now, you're a busy guy, as I've said, so give me a little rundown on what you're doing now.
Well, lately I've taken the focus from awareness to the problem occurring to surviving the aftermath and dealing with the meat grinder that is our legal system. And a lot of what I'm doing now is helping people to understand when it's time to stop acting, dealing with the adrenal stress response and how to break the monopoly it has on your consciousness, and also dealing with articulation of what happened in court.
Okay, well, you're going to enjoy this. I think all of us are. All of us have been to the mall. All of us enjoy. I personally enjoy going to the mall. I see friends there. The shopping is there. The temperature is usually correct. And I spend time at the mall. This is an area where the bad guys know that we all spend time at the mall.
Oh, it's prime picking.
So this particular crime scene that we're going to look at deals with the mall. A incident has taken place, and you are now exiting the mall and become drawn into a situation. When we come back, I'll show it to you. Welcome back. We're talking about an incident that took place in the Midwest. This took place at a mall. This is a situation where any of us, and likely many of us, will somehow be involved in what takes place here. Now, it's a little different, a little unusual, but I think it strikes a point, again, a tipping point that I think we should cover. Let's watch segment 1.
Drop the gun!
Okay. Now, here is a civilian, obviously legally able to carry a firearm. He's gone to the mall just like many of us do. He's done some shopping. He's coming out the door. He's struck and knocked off balance by someone. I'm trying to place ourselves into his position. He goes down on the ground. I think he did the right thing by staying still and kind of covering up because he hears gunshots. Go.
Yeah, at that point, you stay down, you try to figure out what's going on. He got his head up, he started looking around, he realized there was shooting going on. He got his gun out to his ready position. I still, it befuddles me when someone carries a gun and doesn't have a round in the chamber, but he made that choice. And then he moved to cover. At that point, where we've left off, the police have now pointed a gun at him and said, drop the gun, police, stop. And he's at a decision moment. I certainly hope that he complies with the police.
Okay. Let me ask you this, Kelly. Should he have taken his gun out?
No.
Why?
No. There was no reason for him to engage that situation. There were already 4 shooters involved. And I don't know what his situation was. Was he just a civilian shopping? And if so, there was no need for him to go into the situation further. Now he's put himself at risk by everybody. He could be shot by the police, he can be shot by the bad guys. No, I absolutely don't think that he should have engaged it.
Now, this is where, I want to say to Kelly that, yes, I understand what you're saying, but all you know is we've got maybe 2 gangs shooting at one another, and you feel endangered. So you do withdraw your weapon. Do you or do you not?
I'm a firm believer of getting out of crossfire, having been in crossfire situations that I wasn't necessarily the target, but at the same time, withdrawing from the line of fire is more important than engaging. If you don't have to engage, it's better to withdraw.
Did you take your gun out? You come up off the ground. You're moving to find an area that you feel safe. Do you draw your weapon?
I personally would say yes, but there's a difference between drawing and deploying, which means just because I got my weapon in my hand doesn't mean I'm shooting.
Okay.
It's still a shoot, no shoot decision for me.
Okay. Rob, I feel it. You've got a comment.
In the reenactment, it's hard to tell, was moving off to the left behind that big vehicle the best tactical maneuver? I don't know. But given the lay of the land, what I didn't see him do was pull up his gun and start shooting.
Yeah.
He got his gun in the ready position, moved to cover. I'm fine with that.
Right. I'm kind of surprised at law enforcement, and maybe because of our background, I'm surprised that law enforcement didn't pass him by, say, stay here or move over there and keep on moving.
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, he's out there, he's got a gun. The cops don't know who he is either. Right. They can't ignore him and just say, hey, guy with a gun, go do something. We're going to go do something over here. They got to deal with him now. He's put himself in that position. And to Kelly's point, he may have made this more of a problem for the law enforcement guys by pulling his gun out. Maybe a compressed ready position, maybe hand on the gun in the pants, whatever. But because he was carrying with an empty chamber, he doesn't even give himself that option. He has to pull the gun out.
So should he have got up off the ground?
Sure, move to cover, absolutely.
Move to cover. Okay, again, we don't know who the bad guys are.
Right.
We have no idea that they're not both bad guys, and everybody's shooting at everybody.
Right. Right.
So here you are on the ground. You're thinking to yourself, okay, I'm going to feel safer moving away, and I need to draw my weapon to protect myself. Is that what's going through your mind?
I was surprised when he went forward. I thought he was going to remove himself from the situation, which, again, I feel would have been the smarter move.
No.
Okay, would you have gone back inside the mall or gone to a car?
I would not have gone back inside of the mall, but I would have gotten behind vehicles.
You would have gotten behind the vehicle.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, when we come back, we'll talk more about this, and I'll show you part 2. Welcome back to Stop the Threat. We've looked at a mall incident. I want to show you part 2, and when we come back, we'll have more comments.
Police, drop the gun! Drop the gun now! Both hands behind your head. Down onto your butt. Stay put!
Okay, Mark, I'm going to start with you on this one.
Okay. This is typical. If you're involved in any situation, expect to be handcuffed. Don't get outraged that, that the cops thought you're a bad guy until they investigate. And that is the officer's job to investigate. You're going to be in handcuffs. For their safety, you're going to be handcuffed. So get used to it, accept it, don't worry about it.
I just want to go back a little bit further than that. Now that I have deployed my weapon and I'm looking over the top of the car, I'm not sure I should be looking over the top of the car, but I have deployed my weapon. And someone now from behind me is declaring themselves as law enforcement.
Okay.
So I can see the hesitation in the individual. Law enforcement, okay, law enforcement, put the gun down, all right. Is this the time for me to get into a conversation, hey, I'm the good guy?
No.
I think a civilian would do that, but I think it's a waste of breath.
It
What do you
is.
think?
Well, yeah, I don't think we teach people not to do that very specifically, right? Now, he did do a little look over his shoulder, but what he didn't do was turn his body. He certainly didn't bring the gun around towards police officer, which is a recipe for getting shot.
observation.
So I thought that was okay. You have to comply. This is not the time to talk about the Constitution. It's not a time to talk about your rights. It's not the time to argue with the police officer. Do what he's saying.
Right. Kelly?
What bothers me the most about this situation is the amount of time that the police officer now is dealing with this man who felt that he needed to engage in the first place. And who knows where the bad guy is, and who knows the damage that they're able to create because the officer is tied up where he does not need to be.
Yeah, but I think that's a good point that the officer did need to clear that. He need to get that gun off.
But that's my whole point is it was the civilians' choice to engage, to move into the scenario in the first place. And so now the police officer has double duty and has possibly put victims at risk or other.
Go with it, Mark. I can feel you over there.
Well, there's the first thing, which is police officers have a duty to act. Civilians don't. But realistically, my number one question about this is when he got out of the line of fire, why did he stop? If you have no involvement in the situation, why not keep on going?
That's a good point. I like that. You're absolutely right. Why not clear yourself of the area? And that's why I said to you, would you go back in the mall? Because there was no reason to just stop at the first barrier.
Correct.
If you feel like you've cleared the area, then you might even need to move further away because law enforcement is going to take that gun out of the scene somehow now that you have withdrawn it.
Yeah, but I think that's the big if, right? So when we saw that last shot, he's sitting on the ground between two large cars. Maybe that was the safest place for him to be. Again, the fact that he had the gun out, had it extended, and was peeking over the car means he wasn't just hiding in place.
Yeah,
so
that's a little bit too aggressive. I think the better thing to do would have been to remain behind cover, maybe taking it out and sat there and be prepared for whatever might take place. it gets a little scary at that point because the cop now whips around the corner, and then there you are, and things start going awry once you have withdrawn your weapon.
Sure, absolutely.
That's when things start going out of line if you're not careful.
Yes, and things go out of line if you draw the weapon and stay. I can draw my weapon and run just as effectively. Right? And I mean, it's really nice. Ooh, there's a shooting involved. Oh, the police are involved. They don't need to know I'm armed.
Yeah, well, see, that certainly is a good point. If you didn't bring the weapon out to begin with, and you're just clearing the area, then there is no problem.
I don't mind drawing a weapon and clearing the area. The two are not exclusive, but a lot of people get in the mindset, well, I have a gun, I must engage.
Exactly. And I think that's what I would like to get out here on the table was because you are armed, because you are legally armed, because you are well trained, does not give you the right to become involved in a crime scene.
Absolutely. As an armed professional, as Mark was talking about, if you're in that role, you move towards the bang sounds, right? If you're not an armed professional, I don't think you have to run away, and I think that's the issue, is do you hold in place, in a place that you feel is safe and not necessarily expose yourself to more danger, even if it's random bullets flying around. I'd rather be behind the engine block, behind the axle, behind the disc brakes than running through through the parking lot. So I'm fine with him staying there. I'm fine with him having the gun in a compressed ready position, your hand on the gun in the inside of the holster. I think when you start looking aggressive, right? He looked like a guy out of a 1975 police action movie, right? He had the gun extended and he's looking around. Of course, the gun's pointing in a completely random direction, and he's looking in another direction. But at that point, he looks like someone who wants to get involved. Yeah, and that's what the police say.
In fact, I think it was a dangerous thing.
Absolutely.
He could have gotten himself shot, frankly. And when we come back, we'll talk more about it. Welcome back. We have discussed and we have seen a mall crime take place. We have discussed some of the things that you might need to keep in mind if you're going to deploy your weapon. Now, we were right in the middle of that when we had to break off from you, Mark. Did you want to follow that up with anything?
Well, one of the things that is very important to understand is your emotional state in a situation. Sure, he's walking along, some guy walks over, knocks him down, and and that can affect your decision. Well, these decisions, realize we're only seeing this once on the film. But when you go into court, this thing is going to be watched thousands of times by the prosecutor, and he's going to point out every little nuance, every little thing you did that makes you look like the bad guy.
That's a good point. Actually, there was a security camera involved, so that's
correct.
Right.
That's there. You can rely on security cameras. So yes, it's a natural human instinct to go, I got knocked out, and you want to get involved. And that's where understanding the duty to act versus the, this is beyond my pay grade. I got nothing involved here. Time for me to leave is acceptable.
Okay.
Don't be too proud to run fiercely.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Kelly?
It's the same thing I would take away. If somebody is going to choose to carry, part of the responsibility is knowing when to act and when to stay put, as we discussed, just stay where you're at, and if you're able, then retreat, leave. So that's the biggest lesson.
Okay, that's correct. Rob?
Yeah, I think, a lot of people talk about stand your ground laws or castle doctrine. At the end of the day, if you can evade, you should not engage.
I think that's well put. I think in this particular instance, I think you brought up a good point, was if you were knocked down from behind, I think most men, it immediately sends an adrenaline rush. But he was smart enough to cover up and stay down because he did hear the gunfire that was taking place and not able to identify the good guys from the bad. At that point, that's where I probably start having my problem as to whether or not I'm actually going to draw my weapon. While I'm down there on the ground covered up and I hear all the gunfire, at that point I'm thinking, am I drawing the weapon or am I getting away from the scene?
Your first priority should be get out of the line of fire.
That's what I would like to think that I would do, that I would look for a way to escape that area rather than to take on the mantle of law enforcement and do something that I'm not qualified to do, quite frankly.
And that being willing to back away from a situation actually solves most problems. I deal with conflict communications, and what we deal with is our pride getting us involved, our emotion, our anger, when in fact this is a situation that is beyond our pay grade. I mean, I've walked into situations where bullets are flying, right? I've been there. So the fact is that when I had the duty to act, I acted, but when I don't, bye.
Right. No,
You don't lose man points.
And on that note, we do have to say goodbye.
Okay.
All right, but those are some good points made, and I appreciate all of your participation. Viewers at home, if you have some comments, please let me know. If you have anything that's taken place in your area that possibly would qualify for the show, send it to me. Remember, the only gunfight you win is the one you don't get in.
Oh, yeah.
See you next week. Be safe, be trained, be alert.